now we straight chillin', serial killing, pre-cold villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star rated from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ on the ones and twos by the name Beelzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all over two, and prepare to hear the legend of the straight chillin' crew.
What up, nerds? And welcome to another clowning episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode 497, recorded Wednesday, July 10th, 2024. Tonight, we're talking about Damien Leone's Terrifier 2 from 2022. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got you, boy, Randeezy.
I just get so excited about all that boogeyman bullshit.
I am so excited about all of this boogeyman bullshit. How you doing, Bob?
I know you are, buddy. I know what a fan you are of Art the Clown.
You know it, man. I got a long history of singing this man's praises.
Love it.
I love Art. What can I say? Big Art guy.
Anything is anything, Art. Last but not least, calling in from Seoul, South Korea, we got your boy Soju. What's up, man?
Oh, what up? It's your boy, Pat Cake Baker's Mang Stains. Happy Halloween, boys. Kind of.
Happy Halloween. Sort of.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It is Halloween.
It's the Baker's
season.
Mang.
It is. I'm the Baker's Mang.
Yeah.
For Halloween.
We dared to plan vacation this fall, so we're recording a handful of episodes early, and some of those probably have already come out. And,
can't miss them. We can't possibly skip a week. Can't be done.
Can't do it. We're on the road to 500. We can't be stopped.
Yeah.
This
Once we
rolling.
hit 500, I think we're taking like a year sabbatical, like in the underground casket. That's my real home. Yeah.
The shows still come out, but they're just 2 hours of silence.
They're just completely AI generated.
It's just snores and farts, and that's it.
We're currently uploading our back catalog to the AI. It's learning.
It was a marriage to the beast.
It's learning how to straight chill.
Dude, I never really paid attention to the AI generated like text version of the show. If you're on iTunes or Spotify, probably does it too. You can scroll and read the entire show.
Oh, God.
The transcript of the show. It's weird.
Is it 100% correct?
I mean, the few paragraphs I read actually were, yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, that's troubling.
I didn't read the whole thing because I'm not an insane person.
It's kind of correct. It makes mistakes, but I'll say like it's more or less it's a little bit better than it was back when I would read these the text to speech or speech to text on Google voicemails. So you know.
But I mean, it is technically spooky season, depending on where your starting line is. So 4th of July just passed. We're recording on the 10th of July. Technically kicking off spooky season, right? You know, with a Halloween movie.
I'm feeling spooked.
Hopefully you guys did the same, and you'll be hearing this during Halloween proper. So
in the future.
Terrifier 2. Before we get into it, we can't really tackle housekeeping because we're recording so far in advance. The November poll should be posted, and I'm sure it's really great. And we're dropping mini casts every other Friday, and I'm sure they're fucking great too. And you're loving
oh my God.
it. Thank you to all the new
quality
patrons.
is just it's good shit.
November poll. Ooh, that's gonna be our first episodes after 500. Whoa.
That's right.
Crazy.
They're gonna be very low energy.
I bet the number I picked is number 1 at this point with 69% of the vote.
Probably. Probably.
That's a lot of percent.
It's probably Casper again. For
We're
November.
For November.
We're gonna watch
just
Casper in November.
Clinging to it. Oh, boys, you got anything to plug?
to plug.
Oh, man. Halloween's coming. Do Halloween things. Let me plug Halloween real quick.
I'm sure I've guested on 10 episodes this month, so go ahead and check those out. They're good.
My prolific run on Jeopardy and my subsequent new book is coming out any day now.
Oh yeah, it's in a new film. So go ahead and head to the theaters and watch
our Nebula
that.
Award is being presented soon. It's all great. It's all
new album is out, of course. So go ahead and buy 10 of those and
Stains on the track.
We're going for triple plat.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Well, it sounds like our house is clean.
Sounds like that to me.
This house is clean.
All right, gentlemen, let's get into the main event. We're talking Terrifier 2, and we are kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Bob, I saw you had this box. What's on that box?
I do. I have this on 4K with a little slip cover, and I was lucky enough at this past Spooky Empire. Actually, I think it was a year ago, last summer's. I got to meet Damien Leone and David Howard Thornton, and they both signed my box.
Oh, that's cool, I guess.
Oh my God.
Your
Blu-ray box.
Does it somehow have a director's cut that's an hour shorter?
It's the soju cut.
Yeah, that would be kind of nice.
Yeah.
This, funnily enough, though, about a month ago, I think it is, Bloody Disgusting started putting out a bunch of stuff. They have like a shelf in Walmart now, and one of the things on their shelf is Terrifier 2 on VHS, and it's a double tape because it is 2 hours and
Titanic.
20 minutes long.
I hope that that's just a cover that conceals a double VHS of Titanic. I hope that's the case. That would be so funny.
There's a Bloody Disgusting shelf in at Walmart.
Yeah, they like curated it. It's not like they're producing all this shit necessarily, but they like, it's framed as like Bloody Disgusting or whatever. But yeah, they like.
When do we get to sell out?
I know,
what
right?
The fuck?
To sell out 5 years ago.
Episode 500 is right around the corner.
We'll release our behind the scenes on VHS and sell them at Walmart. That's happening right now, by the way. Go to the Walmart.
Too hot for TV.
Yeah, we're talking Terrifier 2, 2022, with a runtime of 2 hours and 18 minutes. This is an unrated film, and it was written and directed by your boy Damien Leone. It stars Lauren Rivera, David Howard Thornton, Sarah Voigt, Elliot Fulham, Kaylee Hyman, Casey Hartnett, Charlie McElveen, some other folks, Samantha Scafty, of course. Plot synopsis brought to you by IMDb is as follows. After being resurrected by a sinister entity, Art the Clown returns to the timid town of Miles County, where he targets a teenage girl and her younger brother on Halloween night. Gentlemen, had you seen Terrifier 2 before, and would you recommend folks check it out? Randy, kick us off.
First time watch for me. I don't have the strongest recommend for this, but I would recommend it to horror fans. I actually think that this is I don't know. I don't want to get into what I think about it really, but for horror fans, yes. This is definitely a strong stomach required kind of movie. Maybe not as much as advertised, but I think any entrenched horror fan's gonna be right at home with this level of gore. So I think that that's the audience for this.
Cool. Juice, what about you?
I was thinking about this when I was watching this movie. I had seen it before. This is, I guess, my second watch. I don't know. I don't think I've seen this 3 times at this point. I hope not. But I was thinking about this as I was watching, and I was just like, this is a word I'm going to use a lot. It's like, man, if anybody came in while I was watching this, I'd kind of be embarrassed a little bit. So I feel like I'd be a little bit embarrassed to give a public recommendation to watch this film. I mean, it is Halloween. It's like a big horror icon. So, I mean, if you're a hardcore horror fan, then, I guess check it out. But personally, I wouldn't recommend, people check this out, seek it out and watch it. I don't know. I don't think so. Bob, how about you? Would you recommend people check this out?
I would, but yeah, it's not. This is definitely not for everybody. Even if you're a big horror head, I don't think this is necessarily like an across the board recommendation. This
Sure.
is a specific taste. This is definitely if you're really into slashers, specifically like more on the gory side. Like this isn't the most gory thing I've ever seen, but it is definitely very gory. So if you're into that vibe, yeah, I definitely would recommend it because I think it mostly succeeds at being that. So yeah, with that caveat, I guess you got to have a bit of a strong stomach. And yeah, it depends on who walks in, man. To your point, Juice, like if I was watching this and like my parents came in, I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna have to pause this one, you
Have a
know.
seat,
I
mama.
mean, just most people, most regular people, I think I'd be quite embarrassed if anybody just came in. I mean, honestly, I really was thinking that. I was like, I mean, yeah, I know we watch like a lot of horror movies, and for the most part, I mean, somebody walks in and I'm watching like Halloween, like that's not gonna embarrass me. I was just like, this movie, we'll get into it. We'll get it.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
just embarrassing came up a lot in
Man,
my
Hmm.
mind.
That is
that's
not.
surprising to me.
Yeah, that's not really how I experienced it. I did, I went back, I listened to our review of the first Terrifier movie, and dudes, it's episode 165.
Holy
We recorded
fuck,
it
Oh my
dude.
God.
June of 2018, so like almost
Oh
exactly
my
6 years
God.
ago at the
Oh
time of us
my
recording this. It
That's
god.
was
Age.
crazy, crazy to listen
I'm
to.
Was the old Bish on that episode?
No, it was the three of us, and we had Beck guest on
Oh
that one.
wow.
nice.
And
Yeah.
it
I don't even
was.
really like remember that conversation. I remember watching obviously, but
Yeah,
I
I
remember
vaguely remembered
very
it.
little.
that's crazy.
I didn't think it was
Yes.
that long ago. I was blown away to see the number and like just we had all the old bumps and like I don't know, man. It's just
Oh
blast from the
man.
past. It was
Yeah,
weird. It
because
was
we
crazy.
didn't update like 300 was the update, right?
Yeah, 300 was the update,
God,
I
we weren't
believe.
even halfway to that mark yet. That's
Jesus
crazy.
Christ.
Yeah.
I can't deal with the passage of time. Is that a thing? Yeah, I can't do it.
Time
So
goes
I
by.
guess
Yeah,
that's
it goes
maybe
on.
a medium recommend from Straight Chilling.
A
Just like
I think
medium
it
to loose.
averages to a
Bob's go to medium to loose.
nice and
that's
loose.
that's he does that is his
Bob's
type, yes.
preferred fit, medium to loose.
A
Recommend.
relaxed fit for you boy. Room to grow, some might say. That's
A little extra Jinko room, if you know what I'm
how
saying.
I
Oh
roll.
yeah.
You can never have too much denim, if you get my drift. So yeah, we're gonna be spoiling the shit out of
Killer
Terrifier 2.
style.
And here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
Whoa, Bob, you spent a lot of time on this plot synopsis. I want to hear it.
I did. So much happens in this movie. I will
My lord, so much happens.
try and read quickly, but
Well,
damn, there's a lot of plot here.
you take your
Oh
time, buddy.
boy.
Okay, thank you. All
Juice
right.
and I will entertain ourselves while you're doing this.
Why don't you go make a drink and then come back in like 10 minutes, right?
Just-
Here goes the plot for Terrifier 2. All right, after being resurrected by an unknown entity, uh, following the Miles County massacre, Art the clown murders the coroner examining his body. He then goes to the laundromat and cleans his clothes. He also plays patty cake with the pale girl, who is a small, similarly evil-looking clown creature, before he ends up murdering a man in the laundromat who cannot see the pale girl. Almost like she's a figment of his imagination or something.
Imagination.
Imagination.
My
A year later,
imagination is going crazy.
A year later, high school girl Sienna Shaw is finishing her Halloween costume. Her younger brother, Jonathan, wants to dress up as Art the Clown after finding drawings of him in his recently deceased father's notebook. That night, Sienna falls asleep and has a nightmare about an evil clown cafe where Art murders several people with a machine gun and burns the place down with a flamethrower. She wakes up to find the angel wings she made for her costume have caught fire and engulfed her dresser. Her mother bursts in and saves the day. Sienna finds the small sword her father gave her, survived the fire completely unharmed. At school the following day, Jonathan sees Art and the pale girl disembowel a possum. He gets sent home because the teacher thinks he did it. Sienna's friend Brooke explains Monica Brown, the infamous talk show host, had Miles County survivor Victoria Hayes on her show, and backstage after the interview got mauled by Victoria. Art then stalks Sienna at the Halloween store and kills the clerk. Jonathan shows Sienna their late father's sketchbook, and it has drawings of Art and other evil-looking things in it, as well as specific kills from the first movie. There's also cutouts from news articles. Shit. And
keeping the beat, keeping the beat.
One of which is about how a 10-year-old mutilated girl, the pale girl, was found at the old carnival. Sienna ignores her brother's pleas to stay home on Halloween night. A news story reveals Monica Brown is in critical condition and Victoria Hayes has been arrested. Sienna suits up and rolls out to the club with Brooke and her boyfriend. They trip on Molly, and Sienna has visions of the pale girl. Allie's supposed to meet them, but Art breaks into her house and brutally murders her. Sienna's mom's car is vandalized. She thinks it's Jonathan, but Art is hiding inside the car and shoots her as she begins to clean the mess. Art stages the body, and Jonathan comes home to find it. Art injects Jonathan with drugs, knocking him out. The pale girl then calls Sienna with Jonathan's voice. She says to come pick him up at the old carnival. Brooke and her boyfriend give Sienna a ride over there. She enters the carnival and searches for Jonathan in the haunted attraction called the Terrifier. Brooke tells her boyfriend that Sienna's father had a brain tumor and he started seeing things, which made him abusive, especially towards Sienna. One day, he drank a bottle of Jack and drove into a transformer. The car caught fire and he was trapped inside and burned alive. Then Brooke and her boyfriend are murdered by Art. Sienna and Art fight. She saves Jonathan by stabbing Art in the head with a metal rod. Art comes back and chokes Sienna. Jonathan saves her by shooting him with a sawed-off shotgun. Sienna has a vision of her mother waking her up and saying everything is fine. It turns out to be just the pale girl distracting her, who then shows her that her mom was indeed brutally murdered by Art. Sienna finds Art eating Jonathan's hand. They brawl. Sienna falls down into a basement. She wakes up. Art stabs her with the sword her father gave her, and she falls into a mysterious hole in the ground with voices coming out of it. She finds herself in a water tank on the Clown Cafe set, just like her dream. She drowns, and everyone else on set dies. As Art continues eating Jonathan, he screams for his sister. The sword glows. Sienna's wounds all heal. And she swims out of the tank, grabs the sword, stabs Art in the back, and cuts his head off. The pale girl appears and takes Art's head and slowly walks away. Then we see a mid-credit sequence where Victoria Hayes is locked in a padded room and gives birth to Art's severed head. The nurse walks in, sees the bloody mess as Victoria and Art cackle, and Victoria's eyes glow just like the pale girl's.
Wow.
Roll more credits. There you go, boys.
Rolling them credits. Jesus Christ. A lot does happen in this movie. It's interesting to hear them back to back like that. It somehow doesn't feel like that, and I think that somehow is because it is too long.
Yeah, so this
so long.
The first movie, and as I listen back to our review of it, like this seemed to be a common complaint about the first movie. The first one's only 80 minutes. It's extremely lean when it comes to the plot, characters, dialogue. It's just like kind of a bare bones slasher movie that's like slightly zhuzhed up, if you will. And I think that criticism was definitely heard by Damien Leone, and I think he just like overcorrected in almost every way with this.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the choices he made were good, but it's just too much of everything. It definitely feels long in the tooth.
I don't know.
What choices do you think were good?
Okay. I think the addition of the character,
Get
like
his ass,
a baller ass final girl of Sienna. I think that was a smart choice. I think just adding more characters in general, like we get her mom and her brother and the friends, add some comedic value to it. I think overall the kills are very, very solid, and like the aesthetics didn't really change much. I think they might have been cleaned up a little bit. I think generally the look and vibe of this is good. But I get like I think the creation, generally speaking, of this final girl that's gonna like carry on throughout the franchise, and I guess potentially kill Art, I think is needed because there really weren't any characters to speak of other than Art in the first one. That is.
I mean, do we think that's gonna happen? I know the movie kind of sets up something, but I couldn't
Yeah.
tell for sure that it was setting her up for a future thing or if it was just the contained episode of this
Yeah.
and then just like bad explanation of what the fuck's going on. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't tell which was which. So, I mean, do we know that she's going to be in the following movie?
Yeah, for
That
sure.
they are? We
She's
do.
the star
Okay,
of it.
good.
Yeah, she's gonna be assumedly the final girl again. Who knows if Art's ever gonna die? You know, we don't know how it's gonna end, but she is developed to be like the Laurie Strode of Terrifier, I guess. And I think like a lot of the addition of the pale girl I liked, some of the like mythology built around Art, I think is good. Some of it goes a little too far. But generally speaking, I think the choices made were for the
Um,
betterment of the franchise.
I think some choices were made that were for the betterment, but I don't think all of them. I like the main thing for me that I noticed, like almost not right off the bat, but pretty soon into the runtime of the movie was that this movie leans way more into Halloween than the first one, which I'm
Mm.
very appreciative of. Like the aesthetics of Halloween. Like
Yeah.
the last one, it was just it felt like that was almost incidental that it was Halloween, and that I
That's
really
fair.
liked that they went to a Halloween party. They did spooky dances. Everybody was dressed up. Then they went to a haunted house, and like
Trick or
the
treat.
majority of the climaxes, yeah, they did a trick or treat segment. Like I was happy with the theming in this
The
movie. That
Halloween
made me very,
shop too.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
pumpkins everywhere. It's very Halloween. Yeah.
Like that's
The
the number one
zombie
thing that I'm like,
platter at the end.
yes, thank you for bringing this to the table because this is supposed to be a Halloween, like seasonal franchise, or at
Mhm.
least that's how it was originally originated. And maybe he tried to step outside that box with the last one, but I like him in that box. Put Art back in that box because that's a good box for him. Um, as far as like the plotting, so I like that they did a little bit more to give us like characters with something like anything going on really. But I think it's just everything takes so fucking long that a lot of the goodwill I have towards the character building that they do is squandered in making me impatient to see what happens now, or like for a scene to be done with. Like they spend too much time with characters that we don't ultimately need. Like the red shirts get a lot of time. The fucking friend and her boyfriend in the car get a lot of time.
Mhm.
Like things like that don't really need it. I just like more than anything, the critique is gonna. I feel like everybody critiqued this movie on its length, and I think that there's a reason for that.
Yeah. So I will agree with that. I will agree with a couple things Bob said. I do think that the bringing the Halloween vibes definitely makes this more tolerable and um enjoyable, I guess. The pale I agree. The pale girl is a good addition, and I think that that's played well. And I think that really kind of goes back to my whole idea about this franchise is like the art character and like that is really strong. And I think a lot of my frustration is that that character now, this like pale girl character, like the whole like concept and visual aspect of it and like the silence of it all that kind of stuff, I feel like it's kind of squandered on this like really just trashy franchise at this point. I think it's really kind of trashy, and it's got this I don't mean to be like picking on anybody or anything like that, but it's got this kind of like mall goth edge lord feel. Honestly, like it really feels like segments and things are created to make a hot topic tea a lot of the time.
A
And
Walmart tea
a
now.
Walmart tea now,
Oh
like
my
truly.
god,
And it
they're the
feels
same.
like
Those are
that.
the
It
same
it
teas.
feels like it feels like a mall goth edgelord kid wandering around like Kansas City malls like wrote some of these segments. I mean, it really feels kind of like trashy and silly and just like embarrassing in that kind of way a lot of the time. Like even to say like, oh, this is a gory movie, and it is, but a lot of the gore scenes are to do that kind of thing like of like, oh bro, like, oh, we're gonna destroy something beautiful, and like, oh, it's just so like having these people come back. And I was under the impression, actually, this time, this watching it the second time, in my mind, one of the positives that had lived is like, oh, is it's a lot of like he does a lot of practical effects, and it's a lot of good looking gore, and I would still say that that somewhat holds up. But then there were segments where I was thinking like, wow, this looks a lot worse than I remember it being. Like in my mind it was better than it was. Like the girl from the first movie who comes back and like does an interview, her makeup looked really janky this time around to me, the way her like mouth moves and stuff. um and I think he's just going like, I don't even want to say too far. It's not that I have a problem with the gore. I just think it's like silly and not necessarily justified, and kind of embarrassing to know that like a grown man kind of did this. I don't know. That's kind of how I
Damn.
have a feeling about a lot of this. Do y'all don't
Yeah,
feel any of that?
no, I wouldn't call it embarrassing. I think
Oh
it might
I wouldn't go
be
that
man.
far.
if I do specifically the alley kill, the one in the bedroom that goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
Specifically that scene, it does feel like a little self-indulgent.
The mashed
And I
potatoes.
yeah, I'd say it might be a touch self-indulgent because Leone is like a special effects guy. He does all the effects. So it's a bit of a showcase, I think, for his like skills, and like if he wants to take it further, he's not like having to pay a shop, he just has to make the time to do it himself. And I think he is extremely talented. I think the vast majority of the kills look really good, but sometimes he might need, like we say on occasion, like he might need a no man, like somebody to say like, here's the
Yeah.
ceiling, maybe take it back a touch. But that's just my personal opinion. I think a lot of people really do love that stuff, and like the more you go, the better. The further you go, the better. And I generally do appreciate practical effects because it's like magic, it's cinema magic.
Interesting.
If you can make it look real, man, it's just like, I don't know, it's a craft that I respect in a way. But yeah,
I mean,
maybe
I
it goes a
agree with that
touch too
part.
far for me. Not
That's the
embarrassing.
thing is like going too far. Like, yeah, well, I'm gonna address your thing first, Bob. But like the going as far as going too far with it, I really don't think so. Like this movie, this franchise is kind of built on that. Like that's the appeal of this franchise of Art the Clown is that he's a slasher that is like going full bore. And I actually think that they pulled back a little bit in this movie. I felt like in
Oh.
terms of that stuff. That's how it felt to me. And like I want to praise this movie for a couple things in that regard though. Like I think you're right that most of the effects look good. I didn't have a big problem with the mauled lady's face, except that they showed it too frequently, maybe, which is true of just
Mm.
about everything in this movie. But like I thought it all looked pretty good. I still have a problem with slashers like using guns. It just feels lazy to me.
I
Mm.
kind of
But
like
they
it.
did. I know, like people
Yeah.
do, but like I like part of the appeal of a slasher movie to me is creative kills, and that's not creative to me. That like you can see people get shot in the head in like PG movies that have nothing. You can see that shit everywhere. You can see that on a police procedural every night of the week. I just don't see it as like all that interesting or worthwhile in a movie that's supposed to be about the gore and to me
Mm.
creatively. Now I
Yeah.
will say that like the mashed potatoes thing I think made that a little bit worthwhile because that's at least somewhat creative. I was like, okay, yeah, like it's
Mhm.
very evil what he's doing. He's playing with his food. That's his big thing for him. And I like that about it. So like as far there is an element of edge lordiness to it, but like I think there's a place for that. I think that this was a lot closer to my personal boundary of like what I enjoy to see than the
Mm.
last one was. Like I don't think that it crossed. I think it was a little less so like to whatever extent I have that line, it didn't cross into like something that I was like, I just don't even want to watch this. Like the woman being split in
Mm.
half of the last one was like,
Mhm.
this is hostile
See, at
territory. I don't
least
really
that's a
like that.
creative, like, kind of kill. I guess there's this, so that's like a creative kill, and it is messed up. And that's the thing. I want to like put it in context of like what it kind of reminds me of, and I'm not say to like to kind of lump these together because I do think there's a difference, but just to kind of like get like where my mindset is coming from this, it's kind of like the concept of a Serbian film, where at that point it's like not even necessarily about like making a good movie. It's like we're gonna take sex and we're gonna just try to do the most fucked up things with sex. And it's like, I have no problem with some sex scenes or even some crazy sex scenes. But it's like, when you just hang your movie on that, like, how far can we push that concept? It actually becomes like kind of quite boring and like, again, kind of like embarrassing because it's like, that's what you have to hang your hat on. And in this way, it feels like a lot of the sequences are set up to be just like, oh, bro, isn't that fucked up? And not even necessarily about, I don't like you kind of like see my point of where it seems like that's the point of it is to
I
be,
would I
oh,
would
so fucked up, bro.
I would probably agree with that in regards
Yeah.
to just the alley kill, but like the rest of it, I really don't think so. That's
Describe
the
to me
one
the
that
alley
like
kill because I'm blanking on it.
It's the
in the one in
girl
the
he's
bedroom
in
that
the
goes on
bedroom. He
forever.
pours like bleach on and salt
Yeah, and
on, and her
salt
Oh
mom
and
comes
yeah,
in
that's
the
breaks her
right.
room
arm
and she's
off.
alive.
It's
Yeah.
Oh
so yeah,
fuck
that one.
yeah.
That's the one that is I definitely like 100% supposed to like shock you. I think the rest of it, for the most part, are just like good kills. I'm down with him. That one I think is the one where I think he was trying to outdo himself. You know, maybe he feels he has to because like the original Terrifier was
Yeah.
shocking to a lot of people. So maybe he feels that's necessary. Whether it is or not, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. It's totally debatable. So I don't know. Maybe he's just like really trying to deliver what people want in that way, which might not necessarily be
Uh,
what you or I want, but I think a lot of people really do
I
want
think
and
he
enjoy
wants
that.
it. Like
Yeah.
this is the thing is
Yeah.
like it's like this is a movie for like clearly made with love for the slasher genre.
Totally.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
so like when you think about the slasher genre, like you think about like Friday the 13th, you think of Nightmare on Elm Street. The original movies for those were self-contained stories. They weren't necessarily meant to be constantly escalating forever. And
Mm-hmm.
this movie is made by somebody who's already seen all those escalations. So he's
Mm-hmm.
starting at 100 and he's trying like I think if you like that sort of thing, if you like the sequels because of the kills, like if that's what you're there for, I don't have a problem with that. Like I'm not, I can see why it becomes kind of boring or whatever, and it can come off kind of edgelordy or whatever. But like to me, it's I don't know. It doesn't really. This one didn't really hit that way for me. It just I feel like it's effective gore
Mm-hmm.
and a an effective performance by Art the Clown. Like he's a
Mm-hmm.
really engaging person to watch, and those two things
Yeah.
are like
Yeah.
the center core beating heart of what most slasher fans get out of slashers. So
Yeah.
seems on
Yeah.
point to me.
So I want to
Yeah.
describe a
There's
scene that I think works really well for this character and works really well for this franchise, and then the one like element of it that I think goes to the edgelord aspect of it. So it's the laundromat scene. I actually really like that scene, and from the concept of like what Art the Clown could be or how we could explore its character is it's funny because you're right, like this is a playoff of like slashers, but we don't see like fucking Michael Myers like go into the bathroom, or you don't
Mm-hmm.
see, you know what I'm saying? So here we have Art who's covered in blood and like there's from the dismemberment and everything from the first scene, and he's going to the laundromat and he strips
Mm-hmm.
down, and that's funny and clever. That like in my mind, that's like the perfect element to put this type of character in because he's so fucking evil and dark. And yeah, use him to subvert these kind of, where Michael Myers is a
Mm-hmm.
mystery. He's always just lurking and you don't know what's going
Yeah.
on. But Art, he's fucking doing his laundry. That's perfect. And then you have the introduction of this pale girl who I think looks like very impressive. And then we have this moment, and it's just so unnecessary. You're already building this great subversion, and it's like, oh, and she's gonna shoot black blood out of her vag, bro. Isn't that gonna be so fucked
Oh,
up,
at the end.
bro? Well, the girl, she's just sitting there, and Art's like looking at her, and she just spews like black
Oh, I
blood
forgot
from her,
about
like
that.
she's peeing or it's just spewing
yeah.
out
Well,
of
I don't
like
know
her
what it is.
crotch or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Is it
and then
supposed to imply? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, okay, so then even like when he's playing patty cake and the guy is like watching, and then even the way the kill's done, so that's practical effect, and I think that's cool, and I don't think that's overdone with like the kill or the gore or anything. It's just like, oh, what if this little girl started shooting blood out of her
Dude,
badge, bro? It's like that's like, come
now that
on, that's
you're highlighting that,
yeah.
honestly, that just blew by me and
I
I didn't really pay much
completely
attention to
forgot.
it.
I completely
But
forgot that happened.
there's a lot of lore built into this, and that might have a meaning behind
That's what
it.
I
I'm
was gonna say.
spitballing here. So like when Art comes back, like at the very beginning of the movie, off screen you hear like this, it sounds like a storm with like lightning
Yeah.
or electricity or something, like he came out of a portal or somebody brought him back to life somehow, some way, and then he rips the corner's eyeball out and puts it in his face. I love that whole sequence. I think it's such a great
That is
way
a
to start
funny
this
sequence.
movie.
Yeah, that is.
But I wonder, oh, like, at the end of the movie when the pale girl picks his head up and walks off screen, and then we see Victoria give birth to his head. I wonder if the pale girl like somehow birthed him back to life, and that's
That's what
like
I was gonna say.
afterbirth or something, falling on the ground. And maybe there's a reason for it. Maybe
I
not.
think
Maybe
that's
we're reading into it.
No, I don't. I think that's. I mean, because this movie sets up a lot of lore, and that's one of the
Yeah.
problems I have with it. Is it like it does a lot of lore, but doesn't like that lore doesn't how it connects isn't clear. And I guess it's because I gotta think it's because he's planning to reveal more as it goes, rather than like
I
spilling the
would hope
beans
so.
right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Like I mean, obviously, if those people are coming back, then he had bigger plans in this movie, and he was writing this movie. He had future installments in mind, but it makes it hard to parse this movie, and that kind of sucks. But I will say that to your point, though, like I think that might be the intention there because she also has the glowing eyes, just like the whatever
Victoria
the mauled
does.
woman
Yeah.
Victoria does at the end. I think that's supposed to indicate that whatever like demonic possession or whatever that is in that she's involved with or that's happening there has been passed on to Victoria now. And I think that little girl is the first victim. Like they lay some groundwork about Art the clown killing a little girl at the Terrifier, which is where the end of this movie happens.
They don't specifically say like he killed her. They find her mutilated body. So like I guess she could have been killed by him or there, but there is, I don't know.
I don't know why
I don't
they
know.
mention it otherwise. Like
Well,
it just
I was
connected for me that
wondering
that was related.
I was wondering if there's like if that hole in the ground that we see Sienna fall into, if that's like some sort of portal to hell or something, and
Maybe.
like did the pale girl like bring Art to life, and is she keeping him going versus like him killing and creating her? Or like I don't know,
I don't
it's
know.
a chicken or the egg thing at this point because there's so many things like hinted at that are not clear in any way in this. And like how the first time I saw this, I don't think I subscribe to this anymore, but the first time I saw this, I was wondering if Sienna and Jonathan's father became Art. And
Well,
like I
that's what
guess
they
that's
heavily imply.
it's still a possibility, yeah, but
I mean, I feel like
maybe a red herring.
that's the thing
I
with
don't know.
the
I had
lore
another thought
about
about that.
this is like I don't really, I don't know. I don't care
I'm
to
with you.
pick these things apart. And I think it's kind of the wrong direction to go because how many times have we said, we had decades of slashers at this point, and like how many times have his adding lore to Michael Myers worked and been effective or been interesting? It's not. It's always cheesy and it's always making the character worse, like Cult of Thorn, Family Ties, all of these things. It just like generally kind of like makes it worse. Same kind of thing a little bit with, Freddy and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
where I think this character like should have like gone and lived and explored more, it's like to Randy's point and like kind of Bob's too, is in the first movie. I kind of like that he pulled out the gun because it kind of subverts those expectations, even if it's just for that one kill. One kill, you pull out the gun.
If it
You're not,
was just the one
yeah. If it's
kill,
just the one kill, you pull out the gun. You're not expecting that. Slashers never use guns. You have the slasher. Slashers never do their fucking laundry. He's out there doing his laundry and like putting it in these positions and being clever, like using your mind to subvert this kind of like decades long tradition of these slashers and stuff like that. I'm down for that. But like adding this lore, it just feels like there wasn't anything about it that made me go, ooh, what? I gotta figure this out. I don't care. I don't know. I don't care enough. I want to see the character in its element doing his thing. I don't want to know about his backstory personally.
Mm.
so I'm of two minds about this. I'm kind of agree with you. Part of me really just doesn't care, especially when it comes to the protagonist's dad situation. I mean, I understand like it at least gives them a little bit of pathos or whatever, but it doesn't really amount to much by the end of this movie. But maybe in the next one, and that's the other thing I'm going to say is like it is kind of we just talked about like how you were just pointing out the same thing that we always do about adding lore being detrimental to a killer, but that's usually something that I reserve for somebody like Michael Myers who's like unknowable. And that this character does have a lot of element of that in the original and even now, but it's clear that they are ramping something up. And part of me wants to give them a little bit of a pass because in ramping something up incrementally rather than giving Allure, oh, we have to take his bones and bury his bones at the death site, and that's how this movie ends, and then they have to deal with that on the next one. They're instead
Fucking
just
over
like
the next
just
guy.
doling it out like
Yeah.
a pill at a time. So like that is a little bit of a subversion. It's just not one that makes for a compelling movie right now.
And there is like a central architect, like one guy is writing and directing all of this. It's his baby. And I do want to like make some room for this to just be its own thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be another silent killer. It doesn't necessarily have to be another supernatural clown. Like it can
No.
be this its own weird demon thing that maybe we haven't seen something quite like it before. Maybe the third movie is just gonna like fall on its face and it won't be super interesting. I hope not, but
No.
like I'm down for the ride for now.
It's like
for
I
sure.
can barely tolerate that type of filmmaking mentality with like Marvel movies where it's like we got to set up the next one. I
Planning for the
sure as
next,
hell
yeah.
don't have much patience for a 2.5 hour long slasher to then tease me with another movie. It's like, oh,
Dude, I'd
is this
rather
what we're
watch
fucking
this
doing
than
now?
most Marvel movies.
I'm just saying the mentality of making a movie in this way, like what to
For the
kind of
next
go,
movie.
to go against what Randy's saying, like this incredible. It's like I mean, I really don't have the patience or the interest to care what Art the Clown's gonna do over 3 movies to build
Yeah.
this lore that ultimately like doesn't he just zaps back to life. And that's kind of part of the thing they said. Like, I don't even mind them zapping him back to life because in that way it's kind of a subversion too. It's kind of like poking fun at like how many times Michael Myers get hit with a fucking car and they have to justify some way for him to still be alive. It's like, no, he's zapped back to life. Those kind of things I'm okay with because it fits with this character of subverting those things. And I think those things work really well. It's just, I think this dude is getting in his own way. I don't think this character, like, I honestly, I remember people praising even like this badass final girl. Like, I think, honestly, I don't think the acting is particularly good here. I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think it's like standout good. And honestly,
No.
I think one of the main appeals is this is kind of like a regular looking, like good looking girl. Like she's a beautiful girl. Like, she's beautiful, but she's got that kind of like regular looking thing going on. I think people are just infatuated with this woman in this weird way. I don't think she's doing a particularly good job acting. I don't think she's
Why?
this
I mean,
like
'cause she's
badass like character. I think she's just like got that regular kind of girl next door, like really girl next, not like the
I don't
things that
know.
people play with. I don't know. I think it's kind of like
I don't
playing
think that
into
the
this
acting is
aspect
as
of like
strong
the
as that.
horror crowd of like, oh, this good looking girl. It's like, oh, and then people are praising. I'm like, I think it's just, I don't know,
I think they're
man.
praising it in comparison to the previous movie where like they kind of set up this girl to be a final girl and it just wasn't that. Like like and they
Yeah.
completely put the nail in that coffin this time around. I don't know. I can see a lot of your points and I like my gut agrees with a lot of it, but it's at the same time it's just like if you're asking this movie to subvert expectations, that does. I don't love when movies do that, when they plan for the next movie and at the expense of the current movie. I don't love that. But I also recognize that it's not allowing itself to fall prey to one of the most time honored like like fuck ups that happen between all other slasher movies. It's at least an attempt to not do that, and I can respect it for the attempt, even if not for the execution. I think that like adding lore ultimately at the end of the day won't help anything, but the fact that they leave breadcrumbs here makes me like they're clearly there for a reason. I want to analyze them. I want to understand because it's there. Like what else am I doing with these 2.5 hours? So like I I want to know, and like the movie's not going to tell me that this time around because it's got bigger schemes in mind. I don't love that on an experiential level, but I can respect it on the level that it's like it's at least trying to create cohesion between the movies, and that's something that is sorely lacking in slasher movies. I think that, like, to your point though, I kind of would prefer if they made a big joke out of it every single time. And like I think that even like Freddy versus Jason does that. Like like this movie has the same ending as Freddy versus Jason with the severed head of the killer winking at camera. Like it's the same. It's not like that's necessarily new, but how like the ridiculous things they do to bring him back to life or whatever, with absolutely no regard for like whether it makes sense or whatever. I think that is something that if they're going for what you like about this movie, then that's what they would do. But I don't think they are. I think it's trying something different. And for what it's trying, I respect it. I just don't love that. I just don't love the net result of in an individual movie.
I want to give Lauren LeBaer a little bit of love. I think she does good in this movie. I think the vast majority of the acting in this movie is solid in that it's going like this movie is trying to be like a cheesy, nasty, trashy slasher movie, and there's a certain like aesthetic that I think it achieves, and part of that is with this like weird style of acting. I think maybe her brother is a little too cardboard here, but everybody else I think is for the most part kind of towing that
They're
line.
mostly on the same level, to be honest. Like,
Really?
I agree. I
personally,
don't think
like,
it's particularly
and
good.
I don't know if I don't know if it's necessarily the choice, because I think they're trying to play it natural, and a lot of times I think it comes off that way. It comes off naturalistic enough to give it like make it feel like something of a real conversation, but then it quickly turns into something that's like exposition-y or lore dumpy, or like that stuff starts to get in the way of the slice of life that makes them relatable or interesting to me.
Yeah.
And instead, they're talking about like, well, our dad died and he had visions and he was abusive, and we have a lot of like shit thrown at us about this. And like every time they have like her and her brother have a moment or whatever, it gets kind of interrupted by that sort of thing. And I'd be more ingratiated to the acting if they just let the characters act in ways that are relatable to me and not exposition, you know?
Yeah.
How did you guys feel about just the general aesthetic of this? The kind of like not quite grindhousey, but just like I don't know, the throwback kind of slasher vibe. I feel like we were kind of hit or miss on it when we reviewed the first one. Did the look of it feel improved this time at all?
Improved, yes.
I think the
Like
general
it,
look I'm
not
okay
as
with. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Like I agree with it. Like the practical effects, they look good, and I'm not like I'm saying it's not about the gore or anything. So I think the looks here. I think the things that the music was good. I like the use of the
Yeah.
music in here,
Really good score. Yeah.
but I
yeah,
mean
for
like
sure.
the overall like designs, like I guess there's not a whole lot of like interesting set pieces. I mean, you do go to the Halloween store. And I like those moments where he's like doing the glasses and stuff like that. I like those art moments. But I mean,
Yeah.
you're a lot of the times you're in like suburban houses, a school, then they take you like to the carnival at the end. So if anything, like maybe for the look of it, they could have spruced up like some of these locations, maybe. I don't know. I mean, that takes you out of like the
It's
suburban Halloween feel, I guess. But I mean, I guess there's not a whole lot like interesting to look at, but the general like look of it is solid, I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't have a big issue with the look necessarily, but I don't think it hits for me like in a specific way. I think it's kind of like it's better than the previous movie to me. Like it just in generally the aesthetic is a little bit better. The aesthetic of Art the Clown is so strong that like
Yeah.
he tent poled the last one, but this one there are set pieces and things that work nicely. I
Yeah.
don't know that I particularly clocked the cinematography as being like good, like
Yeah.
significantly good or anything like that. I think that it's fine and serviceable. I don't even really get a grindhouse feel from this necessarily. It just feels low budget. There's a difference, you know what I mean? Like, and I think it might be going for that, but it feels like it feels like an improvement of an amateur filmmaker, which it is, I think. Like on some regard, he's not amateur anymore, but like I think it's a filmmaker coming into his own, and I don't think that he has a particular. I don't know that it's necessarily a style so much as it is growth within like knowledge of how to do this. So
Yeah.
I don't know if they were going for Grindhouse or something like I would encourage them to do like Like give it a little film grain, give it a little like,
Well, I think there is
give
some
it
of
some
that here.
texture.
Some sort of texture on it. I don't know what it is, but there is.
I didn't clock anything in particular that felt
I
like it was
definitely did.
added.
Yeah, I definitely
Okay.
did. I don't know if it's some of the color correction and then some sort of I don't know that it's necessarily film grain, but there's some sort of texture on there. I really like the look of it actually. I think it is improved over the first one. I think they largely achieved that like 80s slasher vibe. I don't know that I'd necessarily call it grindhouse necessarily, but like, leaning that way.
It looks
Um
dirty. Yeah.
yeah, kind of dirty
It's
like
grimy.
a somebody left the film reel out in a shed for a year or something, and now you're watching it or whatever.
I did
There was
not
a
get that at
particular
all.
look specifically, and some of it's like the movements they do. I'm not sure what they're using there to like pull off these practical effects, but some like it stuck out significantly to me with that girl, the ridiculous kill. What's it, Allie or
Yeah,
I think it
yeah,
was
okay.
Allie, yeah.
When like when she's all like torn up and then she kind of like starts to move, it was like a little kind of like janky looking or like it like stiff or like it was some puppet or something. I don't
it
know.
is.
Oh,
It
okay,
is.
okay.
It's a full
So
animatronic.
okay, so with that, I like, and even just that whole scene like looked very like grimy, even though we're just in a suburban house. Like that's the one that sticks out to me with like the movement and the texture the most that I like really stuck out in my mind this time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
It's
think
that's
yeah,
tough.
the cafe and stuff too is similar. Yeah.
The animatronic, yeah, it looks a little janky and it's tough because they chose to film that whole scene like very well lit, like fully lit.
Yeah.
Bet if they had that in like a dark, dingy room,
Yeah.
it would play better, but bold choice. I don't know. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't, but
Yeah.
bold
Didn't
choice.
didn't necessarily work for me. Maybe if the mom had come in and it was dark
Yeah, like it
and then
broke
it
the light or
moved.
yeah, what
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I,
It's
I
hard to
like
say because we're not any better filmmakers than anybody to
yeah, for
Not
speak
sure.
of,
yet.
but
One
um
of these days.
nah.
I
Nah.
I like the general like supernatural stuff going on here. The Pale Girl I think is super interesting. I like that this family is somehow tied in with the Pale Girl. Like for some reason it seems like the only people that can see the Pale Girl are Art the Clown, Jonathan and Sienna. So there's like some sort of like tie-in. If they're like the chosen ones that can defeat Art, or maybe they're all family. I don't know what the deal is. Whatever it is,
I hope
like
they're not the
I'm
chosen ones.
enjoying the ride of it. The thing that did when specifically when I the first time I saw this, the thing that like really felt like they kind of jumped the shark was when that sword lit up and like brought her back to life, and it's like a magical sword. I was like, where the fuck did that come from? It seems like it's kind of from a fantasy novel or something. I don't know. Maybe, how did you guys feel about the sword?
That's the thing
Didn't
you
love the
talking
sword.
about. Yeah, you talking about the lore and stuff. It's like I like the Pale Girl aesthetically and like
Yeah.
as a
Hmm.
function. None of the lore. The thing about this is you guys even talking about creating Senna to be the Sienna to be this final girl to ultimately kill Art. It's like that's
Maybe.
not what I'm really looking for because this movie just starts with a lightning storm and this guy coming back to life and the end is his severed head being like birth. I'm not looking for an into Art the Clown. That's why I think they kind of made this mistake to create this kind of lore.
Mm.
I think it's very silly. It almost feels like somebody took the first movie and wrote this kind of fan fiction involving this character of Art the Clown. The introduction of this family and any ties that they have this character isn't interesting to me. I just don't having a sword or having somebody whose wounds heal or who ultimately like cuts off Art's head and is gonna be his, downfall. I don't know. That is not interesting to me. In the same way, again, a lot of referencing going back here, but in the same way where I always said, like, I really like Halloween 4 because it just shows you, like, we don't fucking need Laurie Strode. He just strolls into town. There's a new set of teens, there's a new set of characters who have to deal with Michael Myers. It's like you don't need some family whose dad might be Art the Clown and one of them has a magic sword that can cut his head off, because it does a lightning storm brings him back to life. I mean, we're not dealing with some,
we don't know.
We're not dealing with some airtight fucking Game of Thrones political
trying to confuse me with your liberal biblicisms.
Like, that's not what this is. And so it doesn't do, it seems kind of cheesy and silly to me, honestly.
Well, not even Game of Thrones ended well. So
well, yeah.
I mean, I'll say, like, I'm on the fence about that, I guess.
Bob, you're going to say Fence something. Boy, Randy.
I love the fence.
Oh, fence man, Randy.
On the fence.
I do something that I think is, whether you like this movie or you don't like this movie, I think something that is like generally exciting and worth praising is that it is like a largely self-financed, partially was crowdfunded. I think they got a little bit of money from a crowdfund, but it was like a $250,000 budget. And I imagine a lot of that came from the success of the first movie. But it's like truly an independent horror movie, and it is like big and bold, and it's unrated, and it got released in movie theaters, and it did so well they extended the run in movie theaters, and like it ended up making over $15 million. And it's just like this little engine that could, and the fact that like an unrated horror movie got released in theaters at all is just like exciting. And it's something that never really, it used to happen all the time, then it never ever happened, and now it's like kind of starting to happen again, which is, I think, very worth noting and getting excited about.
No, I think that's fair. I don't have a lot to say on that subject, because like we've talked about it at length. Like, I'm happy that smaller concerns can make successful new properties. Like, this isn't technically new at this point, it's like 10 years old, but it is clearly like it is an original property that is being handled by the original creator, and it hasn't outstayed its welcome yet and become like the reboot, like all that shit. It's not a money grab. It's like at worst it is an overextension of an artist, and I think there's a difference.
That's fair,
so
fair
I don't know. Yes,
yeah.
I think that, yeah, like I really respect that this movie exists. I'm happy as hell that it did well. But yeah, as far as a movie itself, like I have just mixed feelings about it. I feel like this, I still want to talk about the lore a little bit, but I don't want to derail what you're talking about before Juice gets his say on it.
Oh no, go ahead, talk about the lore.
Okay, let's backtrack. We got extra time, right? We can't do what you've been watching.
We got time.
So yeah, I think that like the lore thing, like I'm not as big on the little girl, the pale girl, as you guys are in general. I think to Justin, when you said you like her aesthetically, I agree with that. I think she looks aesthetically interesting or whatever. I don't really care about where she came from. I don't really care about like what her ultimate purpose is, except that they make her ultimate purpose so central to the movie and then don't give you an explanation for it. So like, I don't know, like I think it's both admirable to add a consistent lore to your slasher franchise, and also very frustrating because in order to make that last, you have to stretch it. You have to stretch it into 1, 2, 3, 4 new movies. Like, how many more movies does he intend to stretch this over? How many more like half ideas are we going to get to see before we see the whole idea? And then by the end, is that whole idea going to amount to much more than the end of, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, which ultimately like is just kind of like a MacGuffin to end the movie. It's a MacGuffin, like it's like I don't know that it's going to amount to much because the character isn't centered around anything besides just sowing chaos. And I agree that like the idea of a chosen one of any kind is the most played out thing in the entire fucking world. I'd rather see somebody just put upon, deal with it. I'd rather see John McClane than Luke Skywalker, personally.
Sure,
like,
yeah.
And we are like guessing. We're making a lot of assumptions here. Sienna could die in the next one, and Art could go on. Like, we really don't know, but you know, reading into it as best we can.
But it just seems like they're clearly ramping her up to something, and maybe she dies, but it's going to be a death integral to the lore in some way.
She has a golden sword. I mean,
she does.
She has a sword that healed her unexplained.
It's
clearly there to
lightsaber.
make us
In a
ponder
horror
what could that
movie.
mean and create
Yeah,
like
I mean,
questions and
come
stuff. And like,
on.
Yeah. a
It's
hero's journey
silly.
kind of thing. It's
It's
a little silly, but
silly.
like
It's very
the
silly.
the movies are supposed to be a little silly. Like I don't know.
But
I guess it doesn't bother me as much now that I've had time to sit with it. Yeah, it's a little silly. Like I'm not gonna
I'm
disagree.
somewhere between the both of you guys. Like it does bother me, but it's not like I also like got what I came for
It
in other
bothers it
ways.
bothers me because they
Mhm.
spend so much time to make that matter. Talking about how long this
Hmm.
movie is, if we're gonna be cutting
Yeah.
things, even as much as I'm saying like, oh my God, he's being edgelord and going too far. But to be if I was an editor and I had to edit this stuff down, most of the stuff that I would be taking out is this lore bullshit where they have to sit and talk about what could
The
potentially
sketchbook.
make her important
It's a
because
lot.
it's a
It is
lot.
a
It's
lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
so
is.
unnecessary, especially you setting up all this lore and like you're making me fucking sit through it to where ultimately what happens is nonsense. None of what they say or explain has anything to do with the fucking glowing sword, which is stupid because like it just is. So like why do I have to sit through all of this fucking exposition to make me wonder when that I guess that's kind of the thing. It's like why am I going to wonder if Art's going to die if at the beginning of your movie a lightning storm's going to bring him back, which I'm okay with a lightning storm bringing him back, but don't make me sit through 30 minutes worth of exposition, be like, can he die? Will he die? Is he going to do this? And then you should fucking bring him back with a lightning storm. It's like, don't try to set up this character to be like, oh, like her dad and these things when it's just ultimately a sword glows and heals you and you chop his head off. It's like that. You could do that with zero amount of exposition because that's nonsensical. It doesn't matter. Like it just happens.
I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt just because this is such a middle movie, which usually does annoy the shit out of me, but I think it added so much to it. And you still get like, there's plenty of blood and guts and all the stuff that you actually show up to that you got out of Terrifier 1, you're still getting here. But I think there's a lot of stuff to like chew on and ponder here if you want to. And then like we'll see after part 3 like how it's wrapped up. And like it could be something very new and cool and interesting, or it could be like a hot jumbled mess. And like, I like time will tell. The movie comes out in a few months. So like I'm willing to ride
Oh
with it
man.
and see if he can land the plane and hopefully so. But regardless, I do totally agree this movie's bloated and it is just too long. I love slashers, but like a 2 hour, 20-minute slasher is just too long
It's
for
way too
sure.
long. And like I mean, I don't know. I think that like I think assuming that this is going to be just a trilogy is very bold. I think that for one thing, I think
Yeah,
this
you
is
might you might have a
I
point.
mean,
Yeah.
if it's a slasher movie made by a slasher fan for slasher fans, there's no way this isn't like an endless James Bond situation. You know what I mean?
Well,
But
he's
they're
kind of
trying to
yeah.
create cohesion,
He'd
so
have
like
to
it
I would
makes an
assume like
inevitable endpoint.
hand it off or
Well,
I would
also
think he'd
this
want to
little
do other
girl's
Maybe it's
gonna
things.
like
grow
comic
up
books.
now. Like, I mean, you can't
Yeah,
Well,
introduce
they
a
but
can have any
central
girl in
character.
that
she's got so
costume at
much
the end of the day.
makeup. Yeah, I think you could do.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like that's never stopped any of that before. Like I don't know. Like it's
The
just
Stranger Things kids are 40, They're like
And
yeah,
that's
they
a
are.
problem.
it
It's a
is.
huge, still got the bowl cut. Jesus
They're
Christ.
older than we
Oh
are
no,
somehow now. Like
So,
they are. Yeah.
well,
they
yeah,
skipped
I don't
us.
know. I just feel like there's just as an aside, like thinking of thinking of it as a trilogy, even with that thinking, to me, I'm just like, why does everything need to be a fucking trilogy, especially a slasher movie like this when it's well established, like I've been arguing, like that is something that is like they're encapsulated comic book what ifs, each one of them, and what to whatever
Comic
extent they
book.
connect it's all pretty loose in some of the most beloved
Yeah.
horror sequels. Like you make it connect with the loosest thread possible, and then you make the movie you want to make now. And so like
yeah.
I think that's not an unreasonable thing to do. It's admirable to try and do something different, but it's just fucking like it ultimately creates these situations where you're being asked to care about things that are hard to care about because you don't have the opportunity to understand them, and you're trying to parse a mystery that ultimately doesn't mean a whole lot when you're there to watch him cut somebody up. Like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like
it's fair.
I feel like it's an ethos that's at odds with itself a little bit.
It kind of is, because nobody really, to your point, nobody comes to a slasher movie for like the intense lore. It's just not. But therein lies my point. Maybe this could be something new and interesting. We'll find out, I guess, if he can land the plane.
If I think of it as a trilogy, I cannot imagine. Like, and maybe this is like, maybe he's got better creativity than I do. That's perfectly reasonable to think, but I don't see any conclusion to this lore that's being set up that is more than something very basic. And it's not what I'm excited to see in the next one. I'm excited to see Art the Clown
Chris
let
Jericho
loose in a Santa costume.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing. Nothing about the first movie, even as much as we might have bitched about like how thin it was and how there's no real characters, but nothing about the first movie made me go, you know what I really want from a Terrifier 2? A glowing sword, or I want to see Art the Clown is what it is.
The franchise.
Like that's the franchise. Yeah. And I want to see that character in a Halloween shop, putting on the glasses, doing his laundry, shit like that. I don't care about some girl next door with a glowing sword in a sexy Halloween costume. I think that's very cheesy.
I don't know.
I think it's kind of immature in some way. I don't know. It's kind of embarrassing again. It's like
glowing sword and acting and all this qualms aside, I think that like attempting to have more depth to your final girl is a good thing.
That's fine.
And there are slasher movies that do that well, that don't necessarily continue them on into the next one or whatever. There's several movies where it's just like,
that's not my problem with it. Yeah.
I just want to connect with them. That's all I want. Is I just want to be able to connect with them.
Sexy girl. She's making her own cosplay. I mean, no, Laurie Strode is like, I mean, sure, people. I mean, honestly, no. Most of them are not the sexy ones. Most of them
that's
are,
the whole thing.
Yeah,
but
they are sexy actresses.
Well,
they are like,
beautiful.
But I'm just saying, like this one is like the way it's
crafted.
Also
a modern thing.
Well, she's making her own cosplay costume.
I heard Randy's
subverting that.
Super
Randy's
short
actually
skirt.
Gonna be Sienna for Halloween this year. He's gonna make that.
That's right.
I thought he was going as deerskin.
Randy, are you a Chris Jericho fan? I know you're a wrestling fan, or you were back in the day anyway. Is he cool? Are you a fan of his?
Oh yeah, we hang out every week.
Chris Jericho.
Is he cool?
I don't. I'm not up to speed entirely with Chris Jericho. I will say that I think fondly of Chris Jericho because he was around in WCW when I was watching it. He was not my favorite character because he was kind of a jokey character at the time. And then he went to WWE and got to be a little bit more of a headliner kind of guy himself. And good for him. But he's got like a podcast now. And, hearing at length what a person who gets hit in the head for a living thinks is not always doesn't always make them more ingratiating.
That's a real good point.
And I've heard rumblings of things that are just like, yeah, that kind of sucks. So
gotcha.
I know he's a big horror fan. I know he's big in the community. And so like, great. I like happy for somebody to have be a part of the community, but I don't really know with any specificity if I would be like hanging out with this dude.
So the kids aren't into the Jericho these days. He's not hip.
Oh no, I think a lot of them are, especially in the horror community. Like people like him, and like I think that's fine. I'm not trying to like besmirch his character or anything. I just feel like I've heard some things where I'm like, that doesn't sound like something I want to listen to.
He was a face when he popped up in this. I was kind of excited to see him because I don't know anything about the guy. I never really watched wrestling, but he was on Joe Bob, and I was like, oh, neat. He's like really a horror guy, I guess, and like he's gonna be
just
in
a
the
known
next one,
figure, and
maybe
who
for
is legitimately into horror, and horror likes those things. Horror likes people that like horror. They like bringing people in, especially people that are like from different worlds that are just like bringing some of that aesthetic from somewhere else and to somewhere else, so I think in that regard he's great. It's like James Rolfe, who like is a YouTuber who talks about video games all day long. Like he's in the horror community too because he's a horror dork, and like as many good or bad things as you may think about him, I think that's cool. Like he's being embraced by his people, and that's an all right thing.
Darcy, the male girl, being in Halloween Ends, which she deserves better.
Sure.
But that the zombie platter that Jericho's eating, that like specifically for some reason got me in the mood for Halloween. I was like, I want to eat weird snacks that look like body parts and
like a brain jello mold. Sure.
Yeah.
I could get on that. He was eating with his fingers though, and I was like, "What fucking Ron DeSantis ass motherfucker? What is this?"
I will say, even though it is Halloween season, like watching this, I wasn't quite there yet. Like, even though I've been talking about craving it or whatever, it's just so rainy and humid these days that I was just like, there was a bit of a disconnect. I was like, I want it in my soul, but like, physically, it doesn't feel right yet.
Yeah, it's 100 degrees. It's not.
It like the feels like index in DC today was 108.
Jesus.
That is not a joke. That is fucking insane.
Yeah.
But let me see if this. I have something that might help you. Want to check this out?
Pumpkins.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, boss?
It was a marriage to the beast.
I mean,
you're doing it.
We can do what you've been watching because I can predict the future, and it will be Poker Poker,
Casper,
Late Night with
Sleepy
Hollow,
Halloween 1, 2, and 3.
Just yesterday, as of airing, I will have watched
Night of the Demon,
straight chilling calendar.
Jack O, of course.
Jack O. I don't
everybody's
think that's
favorite.
on anyone else's list.
I
don't know about that. Jack, I like jack off maybe, sure, but not
Randy.
Whoa,
I would never.
Watch your profanity.
All right, there you go. What you been watching?
We did it. Yep. The third movie, we're planning on releasing this the week the third movie comes out. I think it's interesting. Like, we've never seen it, obviously, but rolling into it, you can tell it's very much a Christmas movie, or at least partially a Christmas movie. And like, this franchise is a Halloween franchise. The first two movies are like so embedded in Halloween, and we love that about it. We're obviously love the holiday. So it's an interesting choice to all of a sudden pivot and make the third movie a Christmas movie, at least partially. So I kind of am too. It's again, it's like it's a change. It's interesting, and like,
I think it's kind of gimmicky, but I'm fine with it, to be fair. Like, I'm fine. I think
the thing
it's
is,
gimmicky.
like, it is gimmicky, and I'm like, this is the franchise to be gimmicky with.
Sure.
Why the fuck not?
Yeah, I'm okay with
this
that.
This is about Art the Clown being put in, like, I could, like, the ideal for me would be if Art the Clown was like Indiana Jones or something, where it's just like a contained adventure in a different location with a slightly different aesthetic, and you add some like Godzilla-esque like changes to just mix things up or whatever. That's what horror franchises tend to end up being anyway, or at least slasher franchises in the 80s and stuff.
The long-lasting ones,
kind of being anyway. So why not just like go full bore and be like, all right, this one's Christmas, and the next one be like, all right, this one's set in China, like
St. Patrick's Day, whatever.
Sure. Yeah,
sure.
He's in Savannah going ham.
Why not? Like, maybe he's in, like, maybe it's a period piece like Prey. Like, I don't know, fucking anything.
That would be funny.
That would be interesting.
See, that's what I'm saying is, like, the direction I feel like that's a really good point, because that would be great, and I would make me even as like lukewarm as I am like on the first one, or like the way these movies are made, to see that character, which is the strongest point to me, be in Victorian England or something, or at the fucking French Revolution, or like you said, like walking around St. Patrick's Day with some clovers, or some green, his outfit's green, all of a sudden, like, that would be what would make me like chuckle and say, like, all right, I gotta check this out, or whatever. Like, okay, I gotta see Art the Clown in this situation.
Hijinks.
A girl next door in a short skirt and a glowing sword is not what is like what I'm coming to. Yeah, it's like
a long jacket.
Yeah.
Boys, any other major points before we go ahead and rate this movie? I think
let's rate it.
I think Justin's got one major point, but it's just off camera.
All right, let's do it.
Major,
out of 5,
though.
Doubtful. You're always compensating.
All the ladies say
heard.
so.
In this house.
I forget what episode that was. It doesn't matter, but yeah, I was like, "What are you compensating for something?" You're like, "Always."
Oh. I'm
That sounds about
always
right.
compensating for something.
Yeah, for something. All right, out of 5. Juice,
Are you waiting to receive my limp penis?
Juice, why don't you kick us off out of 5? How do you feel about Terrifier 2?
Yeah, I don't really want to watch this movie again, and I don't think I'm gonna come back to it. But I will watch the third one with some curiosity. Um, I'm conflicted because I don't like the amount of praise that it's getting, but I like the story around this. Of course, I do like the use of the practical effects. Of course, I do like, the independentness of this and that success story. But at the same time, I'm just like kind of embarrassed by it because in some ways it it being this huge horror property and us being a horror podcast and people who like review horror movies for like that in some way kind of like reflects, I guess, on like our hobby and like our interests and stuff like that. And in the same way, it kind of makes me think of like the same way that Rob Zombie's dialogue is so trashy. I think there's just this unnecessary like trashy edgelordness of this film that makes me kind of embarrassed by it. Even if there's things to praise about it and even if there's good things about it, it's coded in this like kind of cringe, and it makes it really hard to root for in some ways or support in that way. And I just think it's kind of like unnecessary and a little embarrassing. But what I will like, I do like the character of Art, and I wish they would lean more into that character being in these wacky situations. I love like the laundromat scene, the Halloween store scene. There were some clever kills, even if they like went too far. The practical effects look good. I like the music. I briefly mentioned it, but I think the music and just sound design is utilized well here. The overall, I did see like the grain Rob was talking about. I think it looks fine. I don't think the cinematography stands out in any great way. I think the acting is pretty subpar. Now for an independent type of movie, like it's acceptable, but I never got the praise that people are giving for it, except like you must have really, 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 really low expectations to like be praising these performances. Because at best, they're maybe okay. I don't even think that, but I think they're like lower than okay. But I just can't see praising them as like amazing performances. They're not. And yeah, I think the lore's cheesy. It's definitely way too fucking long. And I don't know. I'll give it a 2.5.
2.5 from you boy Soju. Randy, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like this one more on a moment to moment basis than the first one. I wish this was the length of the first one, is ultimately what it's going to come down to, because I think that the lore and the biggest problem probably is that the egregious amount of lore. I think that the performances are fine. I think they're probably better than your average slasher movie from the 80s, but I think that they're undercut by the endless need to info dump, which is always a big problem with slasher movies that I just don't like. It doesn't ingratiate me to the characters, and the particular lore dump that we have here, it doesn't seem. It just seems like overblown, or like it's just played too much. There's too much of it. It doesn't end up making cohesive sense in this movie, and where it's like just leaves us hanging on it. I don't like that about it. So I don't know, like, and as far as like trashiness and cringe and all that stuff go, like, there was a time where I probably would have agreed more with that, but I just feel like there's more place in my heart for this kind of thing now. I just think that there's like, it is just a form that I'm not particularly enamored with, but I have my moments where I am, or I enjoy it, like the some of the gore scenes, all that stuff. Like I like a lot about it. It's just I don't know if I find it like necessarily. It's not as trashy as Halloween, the Rob Zombie's Halloween movies. I think those movies are like very,
I
very
agree with that.
hard leaning into the trashiness, and both intentionally and not. And as far as like edgelordiness and cringiness and all that stuff, I don't know, man. I see more of that in a lot of the slasher movies this is building on. I don't particularly see this as an overly egregious example of that at all. Um, you know, I don't know. I feel more that way about things like Repo the Genetic Opera and shit like that. I get that. That gives me some cringe feeling internally, but not this. This feels like it is a love letter with a lot of spelling errors in it. You know what I mean? Like it's
That's like good.
poetry that's a little trite, but ultimately well-meaning, and I like the sentiment behind it. So I think that's kind of what informs what I feel about this movie. If it was much shorter, didn't lean so heavily on lore or make the lore undercut some of these characters, like just moments together, or if you didn't have to make room for that and like alongside those things, if you had a more self-contained story, I probably would have just liked this movie a whole lot better. It probably would have a total improvement in those ways. I don't even mind like that it goes full bore. I don't even mind the most egregious kill with the like bleach and all that stuff. Like it bothered me like viscerally, but I think that's what people came to this movie for. So I'm kind of like, you can't go into Hostel and get upset that you got Hostel. You know what I mean? Like I don't like that, but I paid for this. This is what I got my money's worth.
I paid
so
for this.
Yeah, I don't know. All
with
all
my
things considered, I guess I'm
sins.
just kind of down the middle with this. I enjoyed parts of it. I did not enjoy a lot of it, and I think that it does show improvement, and it gives me hope for the next movie, especially because it has an extra gimmick for me to enjoy, one that I already enjoy, which is the Christmas thing. So, but for this movie right here, it's a little bit of a jumbled mess. It's a little over way too long. But it's still fun to watch Art do his thing. Like at its core, that's what I'm here for. Watch Art do his thing. Watch brutality. I got what I paid for. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 2.5, which is 0.5 more than I gave Terrifier 1.
All right, 2.5 yet again. I think I'm a little warmer on this franchise just in general than you guys are. I do think you could call this movie trashy, and I think I don't even necessarily think like Leone would take offense to that. Like there is a place for like slasher movies that are just a little dirty, and like that's totally okay.
He could be the John Waters of slashers.
Yeah. I don't think this is like absolutely like distasteful or anything. And to Randy's point, I would rather watch this than the vast majority of Rob Zombie's movies. I know we kind of dunk on Rob Zombie, but it's to my taste anyway. I would much prefer something like this than like Laurie Strode fingering a bagel in Halloween. But this movie, like I said, I think he just overcorrected. I think he heard very loudly the criticisms of his first movie, and the first one was like, the soup was a little too hot. This one's a little too cold. I'm hoping the next one might be dialed in and be just right. We'll see how it goes. I do like that he expanded on the lore of Art while still delivering on all of the blood, guts, and mayhem that is promised by the character of Art. And I think David Howard Thornton yet again just really brings that character to life in a way that's mesmerizing. He is the character of Art the Clown is for sure like a horror movie icon now. And his face with the sunflower glasses is like everywhere. It's inescapable. People are getting like tattoos of
Walmart.
it and shit. Well, you can buy this movie on VHS at Walmart,
But you
which
cannot
is
buy anything to play
so
it on.
weird. It's well, yeah, you got to go to the secondhand store or whatever. It's bizarre, man. This how big this movie got, and I do think that's worth celebrating though, because it is such like a homegrown affair, and I'm happy for the squad that brought this around. And even if it's not like my favorite shit, it does help open the door to other things that we might like even more. Like In a Violent Nature was absolutely like a slasher homage, a send up that was made on a very small budget. It's an indie horror movie, and like that's getting a release, and like I don't know, it just sort of like helps pave the way for other things. If you can prove that this movie made $15 million, who knows what's going to come after it. So I think it's worth being celebrated, even if it's not your favorite stuff. The lore is too much. Like the first movie, you think Art is like a killer clown, and then by the end of it, you're like, oh, he's a supernatural killer clown. I guess he can't be killer or whatever. And then adding to that, he's like also a cannibal in this movie, which I don't recall in the first movie. Maybe he is in the first movie too, but he's like eating Jonathan. He's also, there's like some sort of gate to hell underneath this carnival ride called the Terrifier that a little girl died at, that brings us the Pale Girl, who can only be seen by this family, and their dad is somehow like able to know all of this and put it in a book and like fashion a magical sword or find a magical sword for his daughter to hopefully try and stop the evil that's coming. And it's just like, man, it's a lot. It's just a lot to add to that very simple, like, he's a supernatural killer clown.
Yeah.
You know, I dig that they're trying to build on it and trying something new. He overcorrected. The kills are great. The gore is great. I love the look and vibe and feel of this movie. It's Halloween as fuck, and I love that about this movie. Um, I think the acting, I think the acting's spot on. I know you guys are sort of mixed or just straight up dislike it, but I think it's very spot on. If you're trying to make a like an 80s throwback slasher movie, a lot of these movies didn't have very good acting, and I do think that is done with some level of intention. I don't think it's straight up these people can't act. I think they're making choices that I dig. I get that it could take you out of it potentially, except maybe the kid. I don't know. He's a little too stiff, like I said. The score is great. The vibe's great. The movie's it's bloated. It's too long. Shave at least 20 minutes off this thing. No slasher.
Dude,
Melissa's in this movie.
An hour can be gone easy.
I mean, it could be.
It ought to be.
It could be. So I don't know. I'm in the corner of this. It's not like my favorite shit in the world, but I think there is more good than bad here. I don't remember what I gave the first one, to be honest, but I feel like a 3.5 is kind of where I'm sitting with this. Brittany, do you have that pulled up? Do you know what I gave the first Terrifier?
You gave Terrifier 1 a 4 flat.
Okay, wow. All right. Well, 3.5. I somehow like that better than this, apparently. Which I don't think
it seems like reevaluations.
Yeah.
What were the scores across the board, right? Go ahead and give us those scores.
I gave it a 2. Bob gave it a 4. You gave it a 2.5. So you're right where you were.
Okay.
And then Beck gave it 2.5 as well. So I was the lowest. You and Beck were tied at 2.5, and Rob, you gave it a whopping 4, which I'm sure we gave you some shit about.
I hope
sure.
so.
I didn't listen to the end of the episode. I just got through like our discussion. So anyway, cool. That's gonna make our aggregate for Terrifier 2 a 2.8. Let's go ahead and jump into the Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think.
Bob. Oh, what?
You all right?
What's happening here?
I don't know. Who's announcing this? We were just sitting for a while.
Randy usually just starts
I'm
talking.
Sorry. I just completely had a brain fart is what happened.
Like,
and
I don't remember who introduces this.
No, it's me. Sorry about that. Mark it down.
Take it away.
Sorry, my brain. It's been a long day. All right. Yes, this is the Rotten Tomatoes segment in which I'm going to give these two gentlemen the chance to guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate positive score is on RottenTomatoes.com for Terrifier Part 2. So we're going to start as we always do with the critic score. There are 78 reviews counted here. 78 reviews. We have to figure out exactly how many of those reviews are positive reviews, or what percentage rather are positive reviews. Starting with Juice today. Juice, I want to know if you can take a stab at this. What are you thinking?
It's tough on the credit. I know this movie got a lot of praise, but I feel like that was a lot coming from the audience. So I think I'm going to go a little higher on my audience. I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of critics that do think this is kind of trashy, but I don't know. I think it's going to be kind of like mixed. Like some people are going to dig it. Some people are going to hate it. So I'll keep it at a 60.
60. All right. Bob, where are you coming in on this one? Remember now, 78 reviews.
I don't think it's going to be super high. This does not strike me as a critical darling, unless you're writing for like specifically for a horror website. So Juice took a 60. I think I'm going to take the under on that.
Okay.
With a 55.
55. All right. Well, let me do a little quick calc. So one of you Yeah, one of you is 26 percentage points
Holy
off from correct.
Yeah,
I hope
the
it's Bob.
closest.
It's gotta be. It can't be that low.
It can be.
The correct answer is 86%.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
certified fresh
That's
film.
The
damn.
boys. Holy
Damn.
shit.
Yeah, I thought somebody
it nailed the
had to pick the
boys.
boys.
The boys.
Nobody nailed the
Nobody
boys.
took the boys. Wow, that is
man.
much higher than I expected.
That took me by surprise.
Well, congratulations, Juice, for
on
winning.
the critic
Congratulations,
side?
Damien.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Damn. God damn. We're on the wrong side of history with the critics on this
That's
one.
so weird because I saw an interview with him and he said, "Hell yeah."
Yeah, I knew it was coming this time. This motherfucker. I know it.
What else did he say? What was the context of that?
Well, he had just won some Rotten Tomatoes game he was playing. I don't know.
Was the next thing he said? All right, let's move over to the audience score. We're going to go in reverse that order, with Bob going to take our first stab here. And there are 500 plus audience ratings at play here. Over 500, sizable amount for a newer movie. Bob, where do you think those 500 scores are going to net on a scale of aggregate positive scores?
Words.
Words.
I initially thought the audience would be higher than the critics, but man, that would put them damn near 90, and I don't think it's that high. So I guess I'll take the under here with 75. Sure.
75. All right. 3/4 from Bob. Juice. Over. Under.
I was gonna think it was gonna be higher too, but now I'm wondering, like, I don't know, I'm gonna drop it a little bit lower. So I'm gonna take the under this time and say 70%.
70%. Okay. You guys are keep doing like $5 off each other. Yeah.
We don't like to be too far away from each other.
Well, I have good news.
Not too close.
I have good news. 5 percentage points is also the distance between the correct answer and one of you. And that person is going to be Juice is going to take this one. It's an 80%.
Wait,
80
no.
flat from the audience.
Then Bob would take it.
Did
Bob
I write
said
these on the wrong side?
75.
I did.
Yeah.
I wrote them in the wrong thing. I was like, man, that's okay. Yeah, it's been a long fucking day.
So we got the old
Halloween
yeet and
hard.
skeet.
The yeet and skeet. Damn.
Yeet and skeet.
Pumpkins.
I know what
Backwards.
that looks like, but
No,
I'm down
either.
I'm down to try.
I don't know. It's like creamed candy corn is what it looks like. Yep. It's Halloween.
like that.
That's the sweetest corn I ever did see. Damn.
Yeah, it is. All right. The critics' consensus reads as follows. Terrifier 2 outdoes the original in every way, which makes it bad news for the squeamish, but a bloody good time for genre enthusiasts. Man, that is more positive than I would have put any of that. But,
yeah.
I think it's
People
not
did
wrong.
dig on it.
Yeah, obviously they did, because
people had fun with it.
Yeah. I mean, I had more fun with this than I expected. Like, I gave it a right down the middle. I did not dislike this movie, which I fully expected to. As long as it is, and it being a longer version of a movie I already famously disliked, I thought I was going to give this a 1 or 1.5. It got a 2.5.
There you go. That's a win.
It does generally seem like people, even if you don't like the first one, would agree that this is somewhat of an improvement over the first one.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was in the same realm. It's like, yeah, kind of like I like the kills of the first one. I like the feel of the first one. It's just like maybe it needs to be a little beefier, but not as beefy as this one. So I think it's overcorrection. I think there is a nice middle ground somewhere here.
Yep. Faux show.
Maybe we'll get it in the third
really
one.
Real quickly, I'm going to do an audience says. This one actually has one of those, which is always nice. So the audience says, which is the audience consensus basically, reads as follows. Hardcore slasher fans may wonder why Terrifier 2's gore was so heavily hyped, but they'll also enjoy the old school horror and Art the Clown's second act. I don't know what the fuck that's talking about. Like, this movie brought gore. The gore looked good.
Yeah,
like, what is overhyped about the gore? I guess there was some overhype about it, like causing people to pass out and vomit and stuff. But
Yeah,
that's true.
People say that about
like,
everything.
They say that about fucking everything. So,
every
like,
festival
I heard our
season,
latest episode made people fucking run off the side of the road. So I mean,
oh my god, yeah,
somebody
people
puked or shit their pants or
because of our last
out.
episode. They're like, I can't live in a world anymore. The perfect art's already been made.
Oh my god.
God damn.
That's
I have nothing to achieve.
Yeah, there's
the boys
there's no
did it all.
There's no golden ring left to grab.
God
damn. Yeah, I guess I'm kind of in that realm of hardcore slasher fans may wonder why Terrifier 2's gore was so heavily hyped. In that regard, yes, I agree with that. Like,
yeah.
I think that a lot of movies have that problem. But that's because of marketing. It's because of word of mouth. It's because people who aren't horror genre fans are talking about it, which is good for horror in general.
Oh my god! Did you hear Betty shit herself watching the Terrifier deuce?
Yes, I did hear that.
I heard it firsthand.
Popped a Q-Chay, to be honest.
She's a god. Damn, boy.
We're getting grosser. God, we keep getting grosser.
I blame the movies.
We're getting to, like, if that movie's trashy, I don't know what the fuck that makes us, because Jesus.
Yeah, we're just as embarrassing. That's okay.
The other half of this statement, though, they'll also enjoy the old school horror and art. This clown's second act, old school horror. I don't know what it's pointing at. With
practical effects, I guess. It's
I
not
guess,
digital.
yeah, maybe it's that. Maybe it's that. Because that's just kind of vague, I guess. Is the problem. All right, now, because we've got the time and because sometimes they're funny, I'm going to read a negative review or two, and we'll see just how hard we are with art this time around. Okay, here's a negative review. Has a macabre sense of humor about its over-the-top violence, parentheses, which might be its only saving grace. I don't really have anything. I don't know if I have. That seems very reductive. It seems like that one blurb that was taken out of somebody's presumably much longer review is just very reductive. I hope people take me out of context on Rotten Tomatoes one day.
Sure, they never will.
Probably not. Let's read another one, since that was so funny, and we have all this time to fill. Leone also serves as editor, the one job which he fails to channel the spirit of his hero Art the Clown, who would have mercilessly chopped a whole bunch of useless junk out of this movie. That sounds about right.
Yeah, your boy probably needs an editor.
Good.
I think that's totally fair. I didn't realize he edited the movies too. That's the key. That's the key.
Yeah.
Get a second set of eyes on this thing, man, and I think you're going to be happy.
If this was like a director's cut, and then you're like, oh, there's this scene where like, oh my god, then that's great bonus content, dude. If you're able to cut your movie down to at least an hour 45 or 45 extra minutes, and then you release this cut as a director's cut, that's great. That's great. Because then you have all these like extra intense scenes that are wild and crazy. Like, do that, man. Come on.
And it also frees you, or even if it's just like another cut, like there's just an alternate cut, not even director's cut necessarily, but like give it some like alternate aim where you can like, you're not beholden to the lore that you cut out. You can keep it if you want and just say, oh, we left it on the cutting room floor, but that's always been the case. Or you can just be like, yeah, we left it on the cutting room floor and that was probably for the best.
It's like,
give yourself some flexibility.
It's like jazz. Sometimes it's about the notes you don't play.
Yeah.
It is rare. It is rare to watch a director's cut. Every once in a while you'll see one that's better than the theatrical cut. But it's
Little
very
Shop of
rare.
Horrors.
It's usually just fluff that needs
Well,
to be
this
removed.
would also be fluff.
I agree. That's what I'm saying.
But it would be an impressive director's cut because you'd be like, oh, these scenes actually have like something going.
Yeah, it's not like the 40-year-old virgin unrated where it's just like 3 more extra riffs
that are less funny.
45 extra content that like deepens the lore and has like an extra gory kill scene. That's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think that's fair. Just get you an editor. Get at least the consultant of the consultant editor, for God's sake. I think you'll be happy with the results.
Words. Get some words.
I don't know why I'm giving so much advice to this man, having made nothing in my life like he did.
You know what you should do.
You know what I think you should do as somebody who has, seen a lot of movies. So
This man
I
is
have a lot of experience in the chair, the big chair.
yeah, I have a lot of
the cuck
2020.
chair.
God
The
damn.
yeah,
Whoa.
we're all in the cuck chair. Until you make a
What?
movie, you're in the cuck chair.
Jesus Christ.
This man that's like breaking records.
You're
You
in
can buy his movie from the Walmart.
I,
Okay, I think he's
the
doing
I
that.
have a real
Walmart.
hard time believing he could possibly give a shit what we think. But,
I'm sure he
I
does.
bet he's listening right now.
He's having a
And
great
by right
time
now, I mean in October when this is released.
when
yeah,
this
right?
comes
No,
out.
right now he's listening right.
He's
now.
somehow
in-
listening right now, which
he
is
bugged this
troubling.
office.
Hey boys, you know what he would like to listen to?
Cooter hunting.
Some trivia.
Oh.
It's totally time for trivia.
Man, it's so good that
yes,
we're on our game for this
yeah.
lovely crisp autumn.
Oh,
Crushing
yes. It's
crushing
so
the game.
crisp. I've got my sweater on right now.
There's a handful of trivia notes here. Not a ton of stuff on this. So the scenes shot in the Terrifier haunted house were filmed in a real haunted house called the Fright Factory in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That looked really fucking cool, actually. I would like to check that out. I don't live anywhere near there, but I bet we have a listener that does. Call in if you've been there. Let us know. That'd be a good one.
What part of Pennsylvania? Did you say Philadelphia?
Yeah, Philly.
Okay.
The Fright
Maybe.
Factory.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like to me like the thing I liked about it most is that it felt like a little bit nicer of a like one of those carnival pop-up haunted house dark rides.
Yeah.
That just have things that pop out at you or whatever. So like I like that about it, but I kind of feel like I don't think you need to necessarily travel to get that experience.
No, I'm not trying to drive the entire East Coast to get. I want someone who listens to the show to call in and be like, "Yeah, it's cool," or "It kind of sucks," or
please
like,
do that.
I, made out with my boyfriend for the first time on the ride in the dark. Let us know.
Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah,
fingered my beehole. I did the doorbell on my beehole for the
Fingered
first time on that ride.
my beehole.
That's a good little clip we got there.
Yeah. Fingered my beehole.
Wild Horses was playing, I bet.
Hold on. I need quiet so I can cut this out properly. I fingered my beehole. All right, we're good. Okay.
I was
Cut
in
that
the
out really
Fright
nice.
Factory and I slipped a digit in my brown eye.
Good Lord.
Leone, like I said,
Trashy.
he secured finances from private investors prior to filming, and then he launched an Indiegogo campaign with a $50,000 goal to produce some extra practical effects. And the campaign was so successful, they raised another $250,000.
Damn, dude.
Hot damn.
I am the cream.
I am the cream.
Pretty damn good.
Yeah, that's good for him. That's super
I mean,
badass.
He found his audience for goddamn sure, and like I respect the fuck out of it. Like go for it. Like and it like yeah, I don't know. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for him.
I'm happy for him. The little pale girl was originally going to be more of an Italian horror / Edgar Allan Poe inspired character wearing a sundress with flowers on it. However, after the success of Terrifier, Damien Leone saw pictures pop up of people dressing up as Art the Clown for Halloween, including several women and little girls. And he knew he had to do something with this sort of idea, so he redesigned the girl to look the way she does.
See, that is cool, but also like that's the thing when I was saying like I don't like her as much as you guys do. That's part of why. Like when you say it's something is made for a Hot Topic tee, that's the kind of thing that I see as being made for like a like to be sold at Hot Topic is
That's
like
fair.
that outfit to a bunch of preteen girls who like this movie because it's edgy.
That's fair.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, I can see that. I can see that argument, but I don't know, it mostly works.
I don't hold it against anybody really, but I'm just saying like if I was to identify one aspect of this movie that felt that way, it would probably be that one.
Yeah. Fair. The last bit I have here is apparently Art's face makeup is similar to Marcel Marceau, who was a legendary mime. I didn't know this. I knew he was a mime, but I did not know that Marceau apparently survived the Nazi occupation and saved many children in World War II. And he was regarded for his peerless style pantomime, moving audiences without uttering a single word, and was known to the world as a master of silence.
Okay.
And he passed in 2007.
Oh, wow.
He was around a long time.
That's wild. I
Yeah.
remember when you guys were in middle school and they like were talking about like the Holocaust and they would have like guests come in and they would always
And
be
they
like,
would
"You
say,
never know."
"Hell, Skeet."
Worth it. Worth it.
It just sounded like one of your ramp
That's
ups.
what they would say.
It's a famous Nazi refrain. Hell, Skeet.
Well, I was gonna say they'd always be like, "You never know how long these people are going around, dude." 2007, that dude lasted a long time.
Yeah. Fucking A. That's what Myman gets you.
Perfect.
High five, children. Yeah, that is all the trivia I've got. Let's go ahead and jump into, yes, Justin, our cooter of the week.
Trivia.
There we go.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
I don't even think I can remember what it's like to be on my game on this show. Like, has there ever been a time?
No.
Juice, what is a cooter and why do we hunt them?
Ho! Cooter's a character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter, but we want the cooter with the most points. The 5 points of cooterdom are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, I actually don't think we have a lot of candidates for cooter in this film, which is kind of weird, but I mean, Art. Is there anybody else that would be majorly considered?
Maybe those kids that were friends that had with the possum and shit.
Who's your favorite Yeah. Maybe the boyfriend that gives him a ride over to the carnival. He's kind of a cooter. He's got this shirt that says just the tip on it.
Yeah. Okay. So
he gets looking attire.
But also, it is
think he's
Halloween
kind of
and
like,
it's got a knife. I don't know.
I also feel like he's kind of like, I feel like he's not the worst dude in the world. Like he doesn't beg me to hate him in any way.
Yeah, he's just he's like a little pushy with the cocaine and like but maybe not a total.
Yeah.
He also gets his dick ripped off, so
Maybe
I mean,
which is nice.
I'm up it.
That is pretty nice. Yeah.
Are you waiting to receive my limp penis?
So let's go with Art then. Let's break him down and say manipulation. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course. Yeah.
He's always creating tableaus and shit.
Can we give him looking attire when he strips down naked?
Well, I mean, we can give it to him in general. He is just a fucking fucked up looking clown.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's his whole deal.
But if that's what he's going for, he's really nailing it.
He's nailing it. But
it doesn't not make him a cooter. Like fucking Jeremiah Sand means to look like a fucking cult, like a man of God, and he kind of does
great.
If you take it out of context. He looks so great.
I mean,
great that he must fuck to his own music.
Well, who hasn't done that?
Been there, I mean.
Juice is always spinning them kudos records.
Oh yeah, that's all that plays in the bedroom.
At least once in the morning and once in the evening, like clockwork.
So let's see, manipulation,
smug arrogance, for sure.
For sure.
Extremely
Overall
smug.
patheticness, he dies a lot.
Oh,
but he always comes back.
But he's like it's like he is always playing with his food and shit. I mean, but he loves it. He loves it because it fucks with people.
That's true.
I feel like he's never, even when he's out of control, it's like he's always having a good time doing whatever. Like the worst he ever gets is a little miffed. you know?
That's true. Okay.
And then was there anything left?
Sexual deviance?
Oh yeah.
Was there something specifically sexual? Well, in the I just going off
in the first movie,
though.
definitely.
Yeah, he wears that lady's breasts in the first one.
But in this one, I don't think they did anything like that, did they? He broke that girl's arm. He cut her scalp. He poured bleach on her, but he didn't do anything like sexual that I remember.
I think that's one of the things that I felt like I was happy that didn't happen in this one.
Yeah.
So
because they did lean into that more, like where he cut the woman like from crotch to so maybe not.
Maybe not.
I think it probably just carries over. Like if he was in the first movie, he like is he just
but just watching
carries
it from
through.
here,
But based on this movie, maybe he doesn't quite make it. Yeah, which is
it depends. Like some of them is arguable, and it's again questions about the lore where I'm like, I don't know, is that Victoria? Is she like she seems like she's is she being manipulated in some way that like by him or by a demon elsewhere? I don't know.
All right, well, I think he hits enough. Yeah, he's got 3 to squeak in, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not as strong as the first movie, though. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Well, we got him again, boys.
He's fucked up.
Except I don't think we were hunting back in episode 116. Maybe.
No.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
We hadn't started rooting out.
No. All right. We didn't have our licenses yet, but now we got them.
Yeah.
6 years ago.
Licenses.
Holy shit. All right. Well, Art the Clown, Cooler of the Week. Got him. Lock him up. Throw away the key.
We got him.
Why is it so mean?
I don't know.
We since we are recording so far in advance, we're gonna go ahead and skip Hotline Scream and what we've been watching. But if you guys are listening and would like to call in and leave a voicemail for next week or whenever we get to these voicemails, you can call in at 904-638-3231. I would like to know what your general thoughts about this franchise are. Do you really dig Terrifier? Do you think it's just overhyped? Are you excited for the new one? You think it's gonna suck? Let us know.
Yeah. Let us know what you think about it moving out of Christmas or into Christmas out of Halloween, I guess. Yeah. So yeah. Okay.
Sounds like
Boom
a good question to me.
Any other prompts you guys want to throw out? I don't mean to.
No, I think that's good. No. I mean, any general Halloween stuff you want, your costumes, your candies, and whatnot. But
we're gonna have a lot of like sequential.
It's gonna be hard for us to.
We're gonna be posing questions and not be able to play anything. So let's just leave it there.
True.
That's
fair enough.
Yeah, call in 904-638-3231. That is going to do it for us this week at Straight Chilling. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode somehow, some way. Episode 498. Not exactly sure what that's going to be because it's months away. But tune in. It'll probably be Halloween as fuck because 'tis the season. Hope you guys are enjoying your fall, your Halloween, your pumpkins, your candy corns, your mellow creams. Got your costumes ready. Just going ape shit. Loving it. I hope it's happening. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
You're gonna die!